There's a lot of talk online about people saying that through hikes are mostly mental, so let's discuss this. This thing poked me in the ear. All right. Mentally, I can't do this. I'm going to have to go to another spot. I give up already. All right, let's walk a little. Now, I probably shouldn't tell you this, but I'm not quite sure how my example would help other people. I'm kind of unique, I think. But I think the things I've observed on trail might help, so I thought I'd just make this video, and if it helps one person, I guess it's worth it, right? Now, all of this doesn't count the unforeseen things like injury or running out of money on trail. Like before you get on trail, you can do everything you can to try to avoid it, but things happen on trail and you get hurt or something comes up and you run out of money. You can't really help that. That doesn't have anything to do with the mind, but everything else, we'll just kind of try to talk over. To get a grasp of who I am, before my last job, I was in the Marine Corps for 5 years active duty, enlisted. And when you're enlisted, the one thing you learn is how to deal with a lot of crap. Literally sometimes, which is pretty bad. But from the Marine Corps, I've been through some really bad situations. I mean, I've been colder than the whole PCT. I've been hotter. I've worked in more humid conditions. I've had heat exhaustion and felt like throwing up for several hours in the Marine Corps. Never had that in the PCT, but it's nice in the PCT because you press yourself. So you can kind of control it. If you're too hot, slow down, sprinkle water all over you, things like that. And in the Marine Corps, I've had much bigger blisters, like half my foot was blistered. And the docs think it's funny to just, their solution with blisters is to drain it and then stick a syringe full of alcohol in it and then just rub it in to avoid infection. And that rubbing in part, yeah, it hurt. And the whole time you're out there, at least in the Marine Corps, you're wearing long cotton pants and top and flak jacket and Kevlar. It's pretty miserable. So PCT was pretty enjoyable and nobody was like yelling at me or anything. So after the Marine Corps, I started running to keep in shape, and I started running marathons. I started 6, finished 6, and I ran like 12 or 13 half marathons. You just lose track after a while. That helped me learn how to feel my body out as far as fluids, body, just reading my body for injuries, fatigue. And the big thing is the fluids again, especially if you're dehydrating. As far as cramping, learning how it feels when you start the onset of cramps and how to deal with it. It's a whole thing. I don't know if you want me to go into about fluid maintenance and performance, but it's pretty important and it's nice to know about that before you start the trail. On our ride from Mazama to Rainy Pass, there were 2 other thru hikers and myself in the car, and the person giving us the ride, he asked us, have we thought about quitting? And I guess it's pretty reasonable because it was really miserable the few days beforehand and it was cold and raining. And the other two thru hikers answered his question and they thought about it. But I just sat there because I don't think I ever thought about quitting. Like I did think about staying at a motel another night or maybe, go to a motel sooner, cut into town. But I actually just kept going and I don't think I ever thought about it, which is weird. And there's danger from that, with that kind of mindset. But as long as you play it smart and you don't do any things that you wouldn't feel comfortable doing, it's not bad. And I had a great time. And I thought everything worked out well for me. But I don't know. It seems like once you commit to it and have no ideas or thoughts about quitting, you just go with it and it seems like you enjoy it more, at least for me. But I'll go over my history as well as some articles I've been reading about because my example doesn't quite fit most people probably. But I read one article online, I'll put the link over here, but he said that you need to go out into wildlife more and enjoy it unconditionally, and he brought all the other things to help you enjoy it. And whereas I don't think you need to enjoy wildlife or the outdoors unconditionally, he brought up some valid points that you need to go out and test yourself when the weather's bad, when the conditions are bad, when a normal person would probably not enjoy themselves, to see if you would enjoy it yourself. If you hate it, you may not enjoy the through hike because, yeah, you probably get a lot of good weather, but you're definitely going to see some bad weather. And it's definitely true that you're going to have to carry a lot of water in the desert because there's going to be dry sections, and see how much you'll hate that. Getting your gear dialed down to where you're comfortable in the bad situations as well as the good will definitely help you keep a more positive mindset. If you're the type of person who's more positive, it might not be as important, but if you've gone on backpacking trips and you felt miserable at times, it will help out a lot just having the correct gear. And that's as far as like having additional warming layers just to keep warm. If you're cold all the time, you're going to hate it, but only practice or experience will tell whether you need it or not. So it's good that a few of the PCT hikers for this 2019 year are going out and having a failure at an overnight camp. But that's good though, because you'll learn about what you need, so you know what you need to bring and what to compensate for. So you need to go out and camp out when the conditions are bad. From my experience, like most people that have jobs, when you set a time for leave or PTO or whatever, and you get your permits and everything and you go, you just kind of have to hope the weather's nice. But most of the time for me, the weather was not so nice, and you just go anyway. And then personal experience is great when you're laying in your tent and storms raging and you're just hoping your rainfly stays on, and inside you sit there and you just start stuffing everything into your waterproof gear and into your backpack, and get your emergency blanket out and not have to wrap it around your sleeping bag, because in case the rain fly goes off, the rain was just going to come pouring in. Things like that. You just have to have experience with it and see whether you like it or not. Another thing too is go on backpacking trips in winter, or at least one, or maybe an overnight at a car area, just to see how it feels to camp out in the wintertime. By camping in a tent by a car area, at least if you are dangerously cold, you can actually jump into your car and warm up, or sleep in there, or go home. The other thing that the military teaches people that real life people don't encounter is getting deployed where you're away from family for long periods of time. I think that was a big thing mentally with a lot of hikers. This was the first time where people were away from their loved ones, their family, children, grandchildren, for such a long time. And a lot of the PCT, you don't have cell service, so you can't really just call whenever you want. And I heard that from a lot of people, and there's several people that I thought were gonna just quit because they missed their family so much. And there was one person I talked to who did quit because of their family, but after a week home, they were good enough where they came back in Oregon to finish off the rest. But pretty interesting. I guess I just felt comfortable being away from home forever and not worrying. I was in Okinawa for 2.5 years without coming home at all, so it's no big deal. Now, as far as the homesickness part, it's hard to evaluate how you will react until you're out there away from your family for a while. I don't think I have any advice on that, just because everyone's going to react differently. Some people will feel that they're good without. Some people will miss their pets. I know when my dog was alive, the most I was away from her was a week at a time, just for work trips. But anytime I took vacation, I always spent it with her, traveled around with her. I spent every minute with her. And I couldn't have lasted 1 week on trail. No way. I don't know how people can miss their pets for so long. They don't really live that long, so it's hard to be gone for 6 whole months of the year like that. But unfortunately for that one, it's going to be all up to you and to see how you're going to deal with it. Hopefully you'll be okay. So the big thing is, I guess, before you commit to the PCT, think about how you'll be without your loved ones for so long. That's my only advice. It's not the best advice, is it? Another thing I saw on trail was Americans seem to quit easier than the international people, mostly because the international people are committed to it, because they travel, thousands of miles, they fly in, spend all this money, and they start. And if they want to come back and do another section, they have to spend thousands again, get the visa, blah, it takes a long time. So once they started, they kept going. In Washington, I noticed a significantly higher percentage of international people compared to Americans. I've heard some Americans also before saying, oh, if I quit this, I'll just come back and do it again some other time. So I guess it's easier for them, especially people that live out west. The only problem is when you keep thinking that, oh, you can just come back and do it again sometime, the idea of quitting is right there, and it's so easy to just jump on it and say, oh, I'll just come back. So I don't know, I like the idea of once you commit, just go all the way until you finish. So me, yeah, I never thought about quitting. I enjoyed every section of it. I enjoyed the deserts, the wide open views of the deserts, the sunrises, the sunsets, the sundogs, loved the Joshua trees, snakes, crazy bushes, manzanitas, and there's so many mountains in the deserts. I enjoyed the deserts. I enjoyed the Sierra, the anticipation of the snow coming up. Everyone's saying how beautiful it's going to be, and it really was beautiful. I loved all of it. Stream crossings, yeah, my feet hurt, but it's only a few seconds every now and then. Another thing is, I don't know if you've read Pacific Trials or Appalachian Trials, the books, they're pretty similar. They go over a lot of advice on how to successfully get through a thru hike. One of them was, of course, is tell as many people as you can. That way you feel like you have to finish. Or start vlogging and all these people expect you to finish. Or the other one is also have a plan after the thru hike. I think one useful thing for having a plan for after a thru hike is while you're hiking, when it's boring or there's nothing to look at, no one to talk to, you can think about your plans after. Like for myself anyway, I thought about building out my 4Runner so I could drive around the country, which I'm almost done, but I broke something, I gotta fix it. But I thought about like how to design it so I can have as much room as I can for storage. I didn't want a storage on top because I didn't want it obvious that, someone's driving around with all this stuff up there. So I wanted everything in the car. I thought about solar, how much power I would need, all the devices I would need to charge, little cooler, laptop, cameras, lights. It all adds up, but it keeps your mind busy and just have something to think about. I did think a lot of my thoughts were, I was trying to remember lyrics to songs, especially Disney songs. Maybe like 20 years ago, I used to know all these lyrics and I just it's hard to remember them now. Or it's easier to remember the song lyrics when the song's playing. When there's nothing, it's so hard. And I used to just spend hours trying to remember all these lyrics. Pretty silly, but whatever gets you by, right? So one thing I really believe in is the concept of shared misery. I believe that it's an amazing bonder of people. Like anytime I meet another Marine, instant bond because we know what we've been through, especially if we were enlisted. If we've been stationed at certain bases like 29 Palms, we know what's going on. And it's fun talking to a lot of the Marines that were on trail as well, just because we had so many common stories right away. And we always talked about the worst stuff and laughed about it. We never really talked about the best stuff because that was, I don't know, I guess there was some best stuff in the Marines, right? And it's like that with the PCT. Like, I remember a time I was at a hotel where there were no other thru hikers, and I couldn't just talk to someone and say, oh, remember that time where you're post-holing and you were miserable and scratching up your legs? It's not the same, but like all the miserable times that you have throughout the hike, while you're going through that misery, just remember that at the end of the week, months, years down the line, you'll meet someone else and you'll be able to just laugh about it. And it's such a great time talking about the bad times Like, I still rarely talk about the good times as much as the bad times. Although the good times are great, the miserable parts, you just laugh about them. And everybody that goes through it will laugh about it. And the big thing about the most miserable times on trail that don't harm you, forever anyway, is that misery will actually be some of the most positive things on trail, depending on how you treat it, I guess. I would say when you are miserable and just going through horrible times, just kind of appreciate it. Because once you get through it and once you get past it, you will find that it's one of the most positive things of the trail and of your life, because you can look back on it anytime something's a little harder but not as hard. It's, to me, I think shared misery is so great, and being a select few who have gone through that misery in the normal life, I guess, it's so rare to meet people who have gone through the same type of misery that when you find them, you create this sense of bond and you can talk, and it's great. So the more misery you go through, the better I think you'll come out, if that makes sense. So I don't know, just embrace it and appreciate it. And I, believe it or not, I still feel like I didn't get the full example. I didn't get to go through any thunderstorms. I didn't get big globs of hail. I didn't get, well, I got some windstorms, but I didn't get any super windstorms with rain. I don't know. I feel like I need more misery, so I'm gonna head back out there and I'm gonna see it. Although, I want it to be really clear when I go through Goat Rocks, because some people tell me that you could see Mount Rainier from there, but I don't know, it's hard to believe, isn't it? So, embrace your misery, because you will love it later. If you got anything out of this video, I hope you like and subscribe and do all that crazy stuff, and I guess I'll talk to you later. Bye.